Namaste. For the last couple weeks we've been taking a break from our main text, Modern Buddhism, and we've been looking at some of the foundational ideas behind the 7 points of mind training. This was a text that was written by the monk Chikawa based on the teachings of Atisha, the extensive writings on Lojong. And it was written back in the 12th century. So through this practice, what we do is we connect with our world in an unconditionally positive way. We take full responsibility for the experiences that we have in this life by recognizing the cause of those experiences always begins in the mind. Now, the 7 points of mind training begins by breaking the teaching down into what I think are much more manageable, much more logical and attainable steps. First, revealing the benefits of the doctrine as a means of awakening the mind. So we have those first 10 maxims that I asked you to begin to review last week, which are what we call the maxims on the preliminaries of awakening the conventional mind. The aspects of the path which we've been discussing for the past 6 weeks, the person of the small scope and the person of the middling scope. Then we have the next 6 maxims that focus on the ultimate awakening mind. And that's followed by 4 more maxims that are designed to assist us to be able to transform what appears to be negative circumstances, what appears to be negative events, if you will, in our lives into the path for enlightenment. So together, those second 10 maxims are about cultivating a sense of relative and then ultimate bodhicitta. Now, many of you have been reading the 7 points of mind training for the last 3 or 4 months, but you don't seem to have really connected with it. And I believe that's because you don't really see how these wonderful and sometimes rather ethereal Tibetan proverbs have anything to do with your practice in the 21st century. And I'll admit to you that I did that by design, so that I could get your attention and really help you to realize why it's essential for us to move beyond this sort of fundamentalist and literalist approach that is seen so often in the Shravakyana and Sutrayana approach to a more balanced approach, one that comes under the guidance of a qualified teacher. So only when we have a qualified teacher, someone who can help us to sort of unpack and interpret these proverbs, can these ideas that were put into writing 900 years ago begin to make some sense in a postmodern context. Otherwise, it's up to us to kind of hit and miss at what we think they might mean, whether we think they're relevant or applicable. So what I want you to do is I want you to take time. We're not going to engage in a lengthy discussion during this particular segment because I really want you to spend the time reading the text. I think that these proverbs are extremely powerful, and the commentary that I wrote on them is extremely powerful. So rather than going through that commentary in a lengthy form, I'm going to do 2 things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to begin by reading pages 80 through 92 of Modern Buddhism, again, as well as the first 9 articles on the 7 points of mind training. Now, for those of you that are having some difficulty, and I've had several of you email me and say, I have difficulty reading through the text, and I find myself getting lost and wondering what it means. I really wish that I could hear you reading the text and doing the real Dharma talks. I've got some of the recordings of the original Dharma talks from which those 9 articles comes. And so I'm going to go ahead and find those and splice those together so that you get a greater sense of sort of in your teacher's voice, the unpacking of those 9 or first 20 maxims. And I really want you, though, to spend some time reading them as well. Read some of my commentary. Quite often when my commentary gets translated or transcribed from the live Dharma talks onto paper, I add a little bit here and there that makes things a little bit more clear. And so I want you to take that time to do that as well. And then your assignment is going to be to, when you finish reading through all that, I want you to write a paper that explains to me the 6 paramitas, which you're going to be reading about in Modern Buddhism. That's part of your reading assignment, and how you've begun to incorporate that into your practice of Tonglen. Because now as you begin reading these mind training articles, and as you begin to read the text, you're going to actually find that there's this hand-in-hand, this synergy that goes in between practicing the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections, and actually practicing Tonglen, the arts of giving and receiving. And so once again, your paper should be no less than 6 pages in length. I really want you to put some time and some effort into this. I don't want to hear any excuses about how you're not a good writer. This isn't a writing contest. This is about communicating. And those of you who've come to this course have come to this course because you want to be ordained, and you want to be ordained so that you can teach others. And so you have 2 options for this assignment. You can either write 6 pages, or you can do the equivalent of 6 pages in a video. One way or the other, you need to be teaching a student who knows very little, if anything, about the 6 paramitas, what it means, and what those 6 perfections are all about. And you need to explain them in some detail. I don't want you to, sort of copy and paste something out of an internet thing, or out of one of my blogs. I want you to explain them, and explain them with passion and compassion. I want you to really think about what impact you could have on somebody's life by sharing these ideas with them. And so I want you then to write 2 or 3 paragraphs at the end about how you've used what you just taught as a means of incorporating that into your Tonglen practice, and what that means for you personally. Now you've got 2 weeks to do this, so don't panic, don't think that you're under pressure to get this done. You've got until you've got 2 weeks from this week, from Tuesday night's class, to begin working on this and to present this. You'll need to upload that. If it's a document, you upload it to the course in the e-classroom. If you prefer to do it by video, you need to upload it to YouTube and then send us the link on our Google Plus page under this week's topic. And I really want to encourage you too to begin asking some relevant questions. Please don't ask me general questions and say, oh, well, I really didn't understand it, could you just explain it in layman's terms? Because everything I'm explaining to you is in layman's terms. If there are things that you really don't understand, and that's quite all right, I want you to ask me specifically what it is that you don't understand. And that means taking a little bit of time and a little bit of responsibility to looking at each section and saying, this is what I don't understand about this. See, a lot of times if we have to cultivate a greater sense of responsibility for our learning, then we take a little bit more care and we look at the text a little more carefully, if you will, so that we can actually determine what it is that we don't understand. It's really easy to look at something and find a few points you don't understand and then sort of blow off the entire thing. Well, that's not going to fly in this course. If you have questions, I want you to ask specific questions, because I specifically want to help you to understand those particular points. And so I will follow this up with the recordings, which will actually be included in the E module, so that you'll actually be able to link and listen to the different recordings about each of those maxims and the first 20 maxims that are part of the 7 points of mind training. And so I look forward to talking with you next week as we begin to discuss how that's going for you and what kind of progress you're making in writing your paper. Until then, may your week be filled with mindfulness, with peace, and with compassion for all sentient beings. Namaste.